Looking back, I'm happy that I am an adult during this entire sequel phase. Because I promise you, if I was a kid when Toy Story 5, Shrek 5, Ice Age 6, Moana 2, Zootopia 2, and now Cars 4, if all of that got announced when I was a kid, I would be jumping out of my seat, like this seat right here, because I've had this chair for years. I would be like jumping up and down in excitement and willing to go see every single one of those movies. But not anymore, especially in the case of Toy Story 5 and Cars 2. Two sequels that I think did not deserve to happen at all. Obviously, Toy Story 5's case is pretty obvious, but Cars 4 is just... oh my god. So yeah, you're probably wondering how do we know about Cars 4 in the first place? Well, D23, yeah, this big convention, not really a convention, it's mainly just like a big press conference for all Disney things. Obviously the one in America took place like a few months ago, but now they had one in Brazil recently that furthered details about their upcoming projects. And the most notorious thing about it is something that did not even occur on the show floor. A Twitter account related to Disney found this form, which translates to what are things that you are most excited to see at D23, and the top result is Cars 4, pronounced in Spanish, I believe. So yeah, this is confirmation that it's at the very least being considered and is about to go into production at Pixar. And... like, I know the exact reason. I know the exact pinpoint, not even close to being an option reason that Cars 4 is happening. And I'm pretty sure you guys know it too. But my question is, why? Why does it need to happen? Like, how far is the mentality of money going to take you? It's like these companies don't care about originality anymore and they only care about the money, which is probably going to hurt them in the long term because I don't know if you noticed, but audiences are being extremely annoyed about unoriginality. I have not seen a single soul react positively to Toy Story 5 or Ice Age 6. I think Moana 2 and Zootopia 2 make the most sense. Like, if they were not announced during this big sequel phase, then they probably would get like a good amount of reception from people, and all we can hope is that the movies are good. But in the case of these other sequels, I don't know, man. I feel like it's time that studios just take a look back and see how to make good stories again, because they very obviously can do it. Sony Pictures Animation is out here flourishing with these amazingly fresh movies and concepts. Illumination, yes, I just did bring up Illumination, but hear me out for a second. While their stories are not the best in the world, at least they are able to pump out original stories every now and again. But I think they're also coming into the sequel phase as well. So I probably shouldn't have even mentioned Dominion City at this point. So obviously I'm going to watch Cars 4. But I don't think I'm going to like it, and that's the big takeaway from this. Yes, of course we're going to watch it because it's a sequel to a good movie, but just because it's a sequel to a good movie doesn't mean the sequel will be good itself, if that makes sense. Just because Moana is a modern classic doesn't mean Moana 2 will be as well. Just because Zootopia 2 is a sequel to Zootopia, a great movie, doesn't mean that Zootopia 2 will be a good movie. Just because Shrek 5 is the most recent installment in the Shrek franchise, following Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, it doesn't mean that Shrek 5 will be on the same quality as Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. That's for a fact, obviously. The same thing goes with Cars 4. Cars 3, I think, is a great movie. But just because Cars 4 is going to be a movie, it doesn't mean that it's going to be on the same level as Cars 3. Disney and Pixar really need to look back and realize that all of their sequels are deep down in the long term, it's going to kill them. It's going to kill their brand, and it's going to kill excitement over every product they have. And I know what they're going to say, but Inside Out 2 is the most successful animated movie of all time. I think Inside Out 2 was the product of the beginning of this whole sequelization of things, because that was when that movie got first announced. It was before we had sequels coming left and right and left and right. And because that movie did insanely well, now Disney and Pixar are going to do nothing but sequels at this point. And that's really not the best thing you could want out of your studio. To be killing it deep down in the long term just because of some sequels, when in reality you have the directors, producers, animators, and writers, and your entire company in general. You have amazingly talented people who are able to craft amazing stories, and you're telling them to make more relatable stories? Not as in relatable, like, oh, a good amount of people have this problem, and we can show it to a good portion of people who don't have it. Relatable as in literally everybody has this problem, and we're going to show it to them in a movie format, which is basically the format that Illumination uses with its stale characters and very basic looking animation. Pixar at least has good animation, but their stories are becoming very, very loose. And as someone who's been a fan of Pixar for my entire life, the last thing I want is for them to go down under because of some crazy Disney company overlords. And the last thing I want is seeing my favorite film franchise of all time get put under the rug again.